Blue Phoenix, The Quest for Frost Realm by Doragon Kishu. The bitter cold wrecks a man from the inside, but there's no other way. The frozen wastelands of Skrir. Taro stands before a stretch of ice wasteland which stretches out beyond sight, meeting the fog-like cloud sitting upon the ground beyond. Quartz approaches.
"Not too inviting, is it?"
Quartz states more than asks. "I find it hard to believe anything is alive out there," Taro replies, his monk-like demeanor holding true.
"Oh, there's things living out there, trust me."
Quartz finishes, then returns to the party.
"All right, listen up,"
hollered Arrow to the party so that all could hear.
"Across the ice there will be human Arctic scouts, keeping an eye out for travelers. Beyond that, the White Orc hunters. And within the three mountains forming the Trigon are the Knights of Darkfrost and their high tower," he continued.
Many of the party members didn't exactly look thrilled at their outlook.
"All of them serving Prince Terov of Frost Realm. The truth is, we're not likely to even reach the ice fortress of Frost Realm."
With this, Arrow looks at the smiling Paladin Quartz.
"But this fool seems to think it's possible."
Arrow finished with a wink towards Quartz. Quartz then began to speak loudly.
"No matter what you do, listen to Arrow and Ornhawk. These rangers are the only hope we have of getting there and getting back. Anything, Ornhawk?"
Quartz asked Ornhawk, who nodded no.
"All right, then. Let's move out,"
Quartz finished. The party would march in single file across the ice, ropes tying one member to the next. In front, the ranger Arrow led. Behind him was Quartz, followed by the half-orc Krent. And behind her, the wood-elf druid Breatoa. The second ranger Ornhawk was in back, with Min the rogue in front of him, and the cleric Samea before her. Taro was in front of the cleric, with the warlock Chalice before him. The winds and icy snow picked up, stinging the party's skin and making the vision even worse. What felt like 3 days of crossing was actually just 14 hours, at which point they took a 10-minute rest. Ornhawk approached Arrow.
"Anything?"
he asked. Arrow glanced over at the Drow Ranger.
"No."
Ornhawk nodded, then returned to the back of the line. Arrow then looked back at Min, who seemed to be anticipating it, and so she removed the rope from her waist and made her way to him. "How far ahead do you want me?" she asked.
"Not yet, but I do want you at my side," he replied, then tugged on the rope, as did the others in response, starting the party forward again.
They travel for several hours when Min suddenly places her hand on Arrow's shoulder. "Wait," and brings the party to a halt. Their visibility being almost non-existent, Arrow puts his senses on alert. Ornhawk, though he's all the way back, quickly makes his way to the front. "They know we're here," Min says to Arrow and Ornhawk.
"But they're not moving,"
interjects Arrow. Ornhawk's keen elven and ranger senses go into overdrive, and he closes his eyes.
"Hunters. 2 of them,"
he suddenly says.
"Most likely White Orc,"
suddenly interjects Quartz, who has moved in closer to the 3 of them.
"What do we do?"
Quartz asks.
"For now,
wait," replies Arrow calmly. An hour later.
"Still no movement,"
speaks Ornhawk.
"I'm not waiting any longer,"
suddenly speaks Krent abrasively as she moves past Quartz, Min, and the rangers and disappears into the belting snowfall. Arrow looks over at Ornhawk.
"I'll stay with the party."
Ornhawk nods, draws an arrow, and moves forward, disappearing as well. Chapter 7. First Conflict. Krent tore through the icy ground, her dark vision giving her more visibility, but still largely blinded by the wind and snow spraying against her face. Meanwhile, Ornhawk followed her, much more quietly, his drow longbow drawn. Suddenly, Ornhawk stopped. and released his arrow. Whizzing by Krent's shoulder, she barely flinches, and striking one of the 2 White Orc hunters in the dark. Ah! This caused the White Orc to release his drawn arrow way off target, but the second White Orc remained focused and shot Krent directly in the chest. She made no sound. Ornhawk then released a second arrow at the wounded White Orc, striking it again, this time in its chest. It fell to its knee. The second White Orc's bowstring then snapped before it could take another shot at the half-orc running towards it. Krent leaped through the air with an orc battle cry and came down with her 2 scimitars upon the second White Orc. Ah! The White Orc screamed as the first scimitar struck it, then the second slit just below its neck, leaving it badly wounded, with Krent's foot upon its chest. Ornhawk suddenly appeared out of the blinding snow, another arrow drawn. He took a close-range shot at the first wounded orc, leaving it barely breathing. The second orc, pinned down by Krent, reached for its spear and struck her in the stomach. This only seemed to anger Krent more, as she struck one of her scimitars into its throat, killing it. Ornhawk finished the first White Orc, and the battle was over. Suddenly the rest of the party appeared.
"Are you mad, Orc?"
spoke Quartz loudly. With this, Krent turned, the spear still in her stomach, and scimitars bloodied, staring with anger at the paladin Quartz.
"The name is Krent, not Orc," she yelled at him.
Suddenly the warlock Chalice appeared, his hands glowing familiar purple. "Enough, you 2, he spoke as he sent out 2 purple warning flashes at the White Orc's direwolves, which were watching some 20 feet forward, out of sight from the party. With the flash, the 2 wolves howled and disappeared into the storm. Suddenly Samea was at Krent's side. She quickly pulled the spear out of her, and her hands glowed orange. "Heal," she spoke, and the half-orc's stomach wound disappeared. Krent gave Samea a dirty look, then stepped into the storm. "I'll follow her," interjected the rogue Min, but before she could, Chalice put a hand on her shoulder.
"Let her be," he spoke.